Okay, finding zeros. So, just had to check to make sure we were recording. All right, so for the first one, we are already in factored form. So when we're finding zeros, the first thing that we're going to want to do is we want to see if we can factor. And if we can, that's great. Okay, so this one's already factored. So we're going to take each of the factors and we are going to set them equal to 0. So I've got a factor of negative 5x squared. That'll go equal to 0. I've got x minus 7 equals 0. And I have x plus 1 cubed equals 0. Next thing I want to do is I want to note the multiplicity. So are there any exponents on my x's? Yes. Okay, right here and right here. So this 0 is going to have a multiplicity of 2. And this 0 is going to have a multiplicity of 3. And I'm just going to go mult for short. Now, what the multiplicity says is just how many times a 0 appears. Okay, so this 0 will appear twice. This 0 will appear 3 times. On the graph of the function, it tells you what it does. An even multiplicity means the graph will touch at that 0 and turn. An odd multiplicity, the graph will go through that point. All right, so then we solve. So here I'm going to divide by negative 5. And 0 divided by negative 5 is 0. So I get x equals 0 with a multiplicity of 2, meaning 0 happens twice. Here I'm going to add 7. And I get x equals 7. And then here, take the cube root to get rid of that. Cube root of 0 is 0. Don't really need to do that. Subtract 1. You get x equals 0 minus 1, negative 1. So your answer is x equals 0 with a multiplicity of 2, x equals 7, x equals negative 1 with a multiplicity of 3. If you were to write it out the long way, you would have x equals 0, 0, 7, 1, 1, 1. So there are technically 6 zeros here. Okay, just these have a multiplicity. So we just use the term multiplicity to say that they happen more than once. All right, next problem, let's see what we have here. This is, again, already in factored form. So we've got negative x squared equals 0. You have x plus 4 equals 0. And you have x squared plus 1 equals 0. All right, here's a multiplicity. Well, let's move that over a little bit so we can put this in. There we go. Okay, this is not a multiplicity because it's not around the entire factor. Notice how in this problem, the x plus 1 cubed, it was around the entire factor. This one isn't, so we're just going to solve that one like normal. And we'll get to that. So this one here, that's got a negative 1 in front of it. I'm going to go negative 1. 0 divided by negative 1 is 0. So you get x equals 0 with a multiplicity of 2. Here you go. And you're going to get 0 minus 4, negative 4. And then here, you're going to subtract a 1. And you're going to get x squared equals negative 1. And then you're going to take the square root. And you're going to get x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 1, which is I. Okay, notice here I didn't take the square root. And the reason why is because the square root of 0 is 0. Okay, so that's why I skipped that part there. Here, you can't do it, okay, because you actually do have this value here, plus or minus I. So that gives you 3 real zeros and then 1 imaginary 0. Okay, so the way I would write this out is I would say that x equals 0 with a multiplicity of 2. And then you would just have comma, or you could do a colon there. Negative 4, and then plus or minus I. Or you could do plus I and then minus I. Okay, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros in this case. And then the last problem here, this is not in factored form, but let me see here. It looks like we can probably factor this by grouping. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I take this and I split it in half, I can take a GCF here of x squared, and that'll give me x squared, and then x plus 2. And then here I can take a negative 2 out, and negative x divided, ooh, no, I can't take a negative. I can take a negative 1 out. Sorry about that. There we go, negative 1. And then negative x divided by negative 1 gives me positive x, negative 2 divided by negative 1, positive 2. And then I've got my two factors. I've got x plus 2 and x squared minus 1. Okay, now I take each factor, set it equal to 0. So x plus 2 equals 0. That'll give us a negative 2 because we subtract the 2 here. And then x squared minus 1. Okay, remember the squared is not on the outside of the parentheses, so this is not a multiplicity. We're just going to solve here. So x squared equals 0 plus 1, 1. Take the square root. When I take the square root, I have to do my plus or minus. So plus or minus the square root of 1, which is 1. So you've got your 3 zeros here. You have negative 2, negative 1, positive 1.